From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. In the news this week, birds mating on power lines in Australia get zapped with 700,000 volts of electricity, causing 1,000 Aussie homes to go dark, proving once again how far ahead of his time Prince was with his song Electric Intercourse.
Wow.
And now broadcasting from the Churn, that guy's Dr. Jim Jobin. I'm Nick Tangevin. It's time for some Pod
I
Therapy.
didn't want to go with the When Doves Cry, because...
You know what? Okay,
was
here's
it.
what's really funny with
That's
that
the bit.
is I read that, and the first thought that came into mind was what I thought was Love Electric, but it was Dance Electric.
Yeah, I've lost.
So, but anyway, I went and I started looking at his albums, because immediately I thought of Prince, and then I
Yes.
was like, oh, it's Dance Electric, not Love Electric.
Okay.
But then I was like, oh, but this song will work.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this song will work for that joke too.
Yeah.
Oh, so will this one.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's like Purple
there's
Rain.
no,
Like,
there's no wrong
keeps
move here.
working.
Yeah,
That's so funny. Remember that time that we were doing the ringtone revenge thing?
Yeah.
And you played, I think, When Doves Cry. That
Yeah.
was your ringtone, and I couldn't name it to
Yeah.
save my life.
Yep.
That's pretty bad. Hey, Jacob, who is the artist who plays Stairway to Heaven?
Oh my god.
Led Zeppelin?
Shit! So everybody knows this.
Yes.
I thought it was
Yeah,
Clapton.
it was not Clapton.
I only paused
was-
because I thought this was some kind of trick question.
Okay, so
No, I don't know the
Jacob
answers.
can confirm that it's not Eric Clapton. It's
not
also
Clapton.
not Van Halen, and
Yeah.
it's also not Metallica.
Yeah.
which were his three guesses.
That was my desperate last attempt. Just throughout Metallica. I mean, they play good guitars. I kind of assumed that was them. I don't do
I
classic
bet
rock.
Clapton covered it at some point.
Yeah, see?
He covered everything.
The other
Yeah.
two, I'd be surprised if they even covered it.
Doesn't Clapton have a song that sounds in title similar to Stairway to Heaven?
Oh, Escalator to Heaven?
Clapton always was more
Totally,
efficient.
totally different song though.
Yeah,
Totally
yeah.
different.
No, Tears from
And
Heaven.
I'm
Yes.
riding an escalator to heaven.
So is Tears from Heaven. It was Clapton.
Tears in Heaven.
Ah, see, okay. I should be forgiven for this.
No, you should.
I was so close.
I mean, we'll let the listeners decide, but
They-
I'm on no.
They
That's
usually
my vote.
riot whenever I get classic rock wrong. That what was the one I got wrong? Was it Purple Rain or Doves Cry?
Doves Cry.
Yeah, that caused a huge problem.
Rightfully
for
so.
like a long time. Actually, you know what's funny? I change my ringtone like constantly. It's always changing. And I have one right now that I kind of want to do and see if anybody can guess what it is. Can you call me?
Okay, I assume it's from a Disney
This
movie,
is good
but
radio. No, it's not. This is adult themed. I don't think either of you will get this, but I'll be interested in which of our listeners can get it. So if you can get my ringtone, you can go to patreon.com/therapy, and underneath this episode you can comment and you can tell us where or what the ringtone is. Even if you reference, like, you don't even have to get it specifically. Like, I'll even take the TV show it's from. So that's a hint. It's from a TV show.
The Jeffersons.
Yes. Moving on up.
Oh, I got it.
Oh, you turned it
Jim's
off.
dancing to his
Hell
ringtone.
yeah, I am. My wife gets so pissed because, like, we were at Kohl's yesterday and I had the kids and she was like calling me to find out where I was and I was just letting it play. Like, I wasn't answering it, and like me and the kids are like dancing and she's just like, fucking pick up your phone. It's like I got all these voice messages of her just pissed.
I have no idea.
Are you listening to your stupid ringtone again? All right, so if you've got the answer, you can go to patreon.com/therapy. Do you actually know it, Jacob?
I do.
Ooh, that's pretty
Really?
cool. He
Yeah.
has good taste in television. What is well, okay, if you wanted to guess, stop this tape right now. All right, Jacob,
I know what it is.
What is it?
It's from Rick and Morty.
Yeah! Oh, what a good episode that was. Where
Yeah, it's the one where they...
The parasite.
Yeah, that one.
The parasite, like, is in their house and, like, it causes them to have false memories of the past.
Yeah.
And then it summons a new parasite every time. And then at the end of the show, there's like hundreds of all these obscenely weird characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Summer's
that's
like
right.
unicorn best friend thing.
Tinkles
Sings that song.
Tinkles takes her to Never Past Bedtime Land, where they rave. I love that bit. So we should probably do therapy stuff.
All right.
But anyway. All right.
Yeah.
First question. New weight identity. Hey guys, I am a mid-40s overweight dude that has lost a lot of weight over the last 4 years, but still has a lot to go. At my highest, I was almost 600 pounds. I'm currently 330, and have lost about 270 pounds total, with about 160 of that in the last 14 months.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really good. As I'm losing weight and getting closer to my target of 200, I'm finding that I am second-guessing my progress and actually having some anxiety about getting closer to a normal weight. Lots of friends, coworkers, etc. congratulate me on my progress fairly regularly, and this actually makes me feel embarrassed or ashamed. It's a combination of being embarrassed for congratulations on still being severely obese, and ashamed for not having done it 20 years ago when it would have been much easier. I'm also anxious about my continued weight loss for a couple of reasons. The first is that my brother has been losing weight along with me the last year or so, and he is now getting to his target weight. He was right around where I am now and is wrapping up his weight loss phase, and I'm a bit worried about that support being gone if I lose my focus. I'm also concerned about actually losing all the weight and not really knowing how to exist at a relatively normal size. I've always been a fat guy for my entire memory, even as a child, and never ever considered dating or relationships under the general assumption that no one would be interested. As I lose weight and realize that I may not have that excuse soon, it kind of scares me. I've been thinking of seeing a therapist for the first time to try to work through some of this, but I'm not really sure how to go. I've Googled weight loss therapists, but they seem to be mostly associated with bariatric surgery centers at the local hospitals. Any advice? Thanks, Keith.
Wow. First of all, congratulations.
That's huge, Keith.
Yeah.
Congrats. That's a big deal, man.
Yeah, that is awesome. And good for you for, taking care of yourself, making the decision to do something, healthy. I really admire that. I think that's awesome. A few things that I was going to mention. First off, specifically with the first question about, how you feel when someone says congratulations. So a little bit of embarrassment, and you said ashamed, and it sounds like for having not done this over the last 20 years or 20 years ago. And
I think also for it's a hard thing to be congratulated on.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Like, it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Inherently,
I guess,
they are criticizing your old self and praising your progress on not being unhealthy. Or you know what I mean? It's like, it's a well-intentioned thing. Like, people do tell you, oh my God, you look great.
It is.
Congrats, but it is a weird thing to receive.
It is, but I think this is kind of where that cognitive reframing comes into play.
Yeah.
Where, I think if you're receiving that, I think the way that you interpret that is a reflection on the way that you think of yourself.
Yes.
And not necessarily what they are saying, right?
Right.
So I think a big part of maybe how therapy could be helpful is helping you utilize that cognitive reframing and changing that voice in your head. Because what we hear, what we think about, like if Jim says something to me, the spoken message is not as important as my interpretation of the meaning that I place on the message.
Yeah.
Right? That's the most important piece.
Right.
And what therapy will do is therapy will help you address that piece. So when someone says, congratulations on, losing this weight, you're doing a great job, in my mind, I'm hearing, you were huge before,
yes.
and why did it take you so long?
Yes.
That's the part I need to address, because that's not what was said. That's the piece that I add in my own head.
Good point.
And the important thing with this is that this is a good thing, because that means that is within my control, that I can change that. Right. And it takes a lot of practice to be able to utilize that cognitive reframing and to be able to catch that thought when you have it and say, no, that's not what they're saying.
Right.
I'm doing something good. They're proud of me. They care about me. They're happy to see me doing something good. That's it.
Right.
And we just go from there. And the whole idea of I should have done this 20 years ago, I tell people this all the time. You're living in the past.
Right.
You're living in the past.
You're in the now.
Yeah. And, this happened actually just a couple weeks ago playing hockey, where somebody, skated off and they got on the bench and they were upset. They were pissed about something that happened, and they're like, they didn't take that. Why didn't they catch that pass? Why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? And I told them, like, you're living in the past, dude.
Yeah, that's last
We're here right now.
Yeah,
there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think that you're generally right. Like, I think that this is correct. That is going to be the message to the writer. But, dude, I completely get what he's talking about. Like, I remember it was years ago. This was, like, I think about 3, I guess, years ago. My daughter was hospitalized. She spent a month in the ICU. She was an infant. It was absolutely terrifying. I have generalized anxiety disorder, and my anxiety profile is almost entirely the health and safety of my people. Like, I'm good. Like, I don't care. If I'll see like a red spot on my knee and I don't have any fear of like, oh, what is that? Like, I don't care. But like, if it's my people, if my kid has a cough, I'm like Googling things like, is this kid going to be okay? And I can't sleep. So my daughter being in the ICU was like the worst thing ever. I lost, during that span of time, I lost, I think, 40 pounds over that month. And it was crazy because then in the following month or whatever, it was like Easter. And my in-laws came over and my brother-in-laws and all these people came over, my family, and everybody to a person said, Jim, you look so good. And like, obviously, I hadn't tried. I didn't earn weight loss. So like, obviously it was already kind of bad. My daughter was better at that point, so I was happy.
Right.
But like, my ears heard that the same way the writers did.
Yeah.
When people come to you and go, you look so good. Oh my God, you look so much better. I'm like, how bad did I look before? Like, the fact that all of you to a person noticed it and, like, needed to come tell me how good I look almost is like, please don't go back. Like, it's almost like you're warning me, like, we used to think you were repulsive. We couldn't say it. But thank God, I feel like women probably feel the same way whenever they actually, like, put on good makeup and, like, do their hair and wear something, and people, like, gush over them, like, you look beautiful. Oh, my God. And you're like, wait a minute.
Right.
Like, I can't help but feel like this is sort of like a two-sided coin. Like, you're kind of... You're so
let me
pleased
ask
with
you
my
this.
appearance now, it's sort of an indictment on my previous appearance.
Let me
Whereas
ask
if
you
I
this.
always look
Hold
good,
on.
there'd be no need to point this out.
Have you ever told your wife that she looks good?
Yes.
Like going out in the evening or whatever, going out on a date or something, you said, hey, you look good.
Yes.
When you said that, do you mean that she's never looked good before?
Yes.
Okay, bad example. Jacob?
Do I think Jim has never looked good?
I love how he just jumps in with whatever he thinks we were talking about.
Jim's never looked good?
Yeah,
Agreed.
I got it. Yeah, hockey? I heard something about hockey.
Nick's bad at hockey? Yes.
So,
No, I agree
for
with your point.
for
I agree with your
most
point.
people who aren't Jim,
Yeah.
when they give you a compliment, they genuinely mean it,
No,
and
I'm not-
it's not in their head.
No,
but
I'm not
here's-
impugning the intention of the compliment, but I'm saying it inherently is a type of compliment that
absolutely.
feels odd.
I definitely
It's a
agree.
feeling odd thing.
I
to
agree,
receive.
but the point that I'm making is that we often see things different when we're on the other side.
Yes.
So, for example, if I have that thought
Yes.
of, oh, they think this because they're giving me this compliment,
Right.
then I have to think, have I ever given that compliment? Yes, I have. Did I mean this
Right.
other thing? Well, no, I didn't. So why would it be different for them?
Yes.
Right? We change the rules when we're on one side versus the other.
I agree with you.
Right.
And to the writer, Nick's right. Like, at the end of the day, I want you to do what Nick's talking about. I guess I'm just more like the writer in this one.
No, I
Like,
get it,
I
yeah.
feel him. Because, like,
Yeah.
anytime that you do something for yourself, right? That you get your makeup done, you get a nice outfit, you lose some weight, you get something done. You were insecure about that thing. You were unhappy with that thing. So when people notice the change away from that thing, it kind of bothers you that they're even bringing it up. Because
Sure.
it's impolite to say to a fat person, hey, you're looking pretty fat today. But when they lose 20 pounds, or 40 pounds in my case, and then you go, wow, you look so much better. Okay, so now you're allowed to talk about it. Like, now you're allowed to talk and say to me that I was overweight. And, like, it's a nice thing, but, like, I was insecure about that, right?
Sure.
Like, so it inherently hurts a little bit. And so I think that what the writer's saying that I resonate with, the great irony is, we don't want people to not notice. Like, of course, it's better that they do. But I guess it's always going to feel weird to us because at some point you almost prefer nobody say anything because it almost shames you. It almost reminds you that you didn't used to be okay or whatever.
Right.
And I guess that's discouraging too. So I kind of understand like
Yes.
the double-bladed sword
Yes.
here.
No, I get the empathy for it.
Yeah.
Like, I totally understand. but I don't want Keith getting caught up in that illogical thinking.
It is still illogical, yeah.
Right?
Like you do need to challenge it.
Yeah, you have to challenge that thought process. That's not the case.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that. Now, the other thing he's talking about is this idea of identity, which we've actually talked about on the show before.
We have.
Whenever somebody loses a significant amount of weight or does something, physically very different for themselves, maybe they get something done plastic surgery-wise or anything to that effect, there is this very interesting mental effect of not identifying at that weight anymore. Like Keith talks about, I was heavy my whole life. So being this low, even though he's on his way toward his goal weight, he's starting to already feel that fish out of water kind of existential experience.
And then talking about dating.
Right. Which
where
is a
the
whole
weight,
other thing.
it sounds like the weight was, it sounds like to me that there was always a fear of dating.
Yes. Because of the weight.
No.
I see.
No, there was always a fear,
weight was
but
the
the weight
excuse.
was the excuse to not challenge that.
Right.
Right? And so now the weight's not an issue.
Yes.
So now you're left to challenge this fear that you had of dating. And that can be very scary.
You know what's so interesting? At this point, I have gotten to the place, and I'm not going to say I have a perfect batting average on this, but I have experienced the rare person who used to be quite heavy and is no longer, and I can tell from their personality that they used to be quite heavy and they are no longer, because they just have a different kind of personality. Whenever you have this kind of like really conspicuous thing that society doesn't like about you, you really become like a different kind of person. You become funny and like you roll with the punches, you're self-effacing, you're friendly, you're looking forward to helping other people. You have all these qualities that just, I guess, you develop over time. And then so it's interesting because anytime I meet somebody who in their youth was quite heavy or had some conspicuous thing, if they've overcome that now physically, it's no longer visually apparent. I can tell because of their personality type. They just fit a certain profile in my mind that's like, yeah, you probably like became a very gregarious and kind-hearted person to sort of attract warmth and attract, companionship because you didn't have, security in your body image at the time.
Right.
It's interesting anyway. So I think Keith's going through that. I mean, that's fundamentally what's going to happen, but there is so much here. And, I'm glad that he talked about, hey, I'm open to seeing a therapist.
Yeah.
At this stage, that really might be something for you to explore. Because a guy like Nick or me is going to give you coaching, like what you just heard Nick talking about with cognitive reframing. But I think on top of that, it's a safe place to explore the things that you're going to bump into, Keith, that right now you can't even predict. Like there's going to be all these new realities that you're going to bump into that you cannot even predict right now. And it might be nice to have a safe place and a coach with whom to kind of digest that and make sense of it as it's happening in real life.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think getting into therapy can help address some of that in a lot greater detail than what we could too, here on this show. And I think, and the whole fear with dating thing, that's a logical fear. I think everybody has that, regardless of whatever size you are, because you're displaying vulnerability, right?
Dating's hard enough.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, and so it's because
an
no one
identity
wants to feel rejected. But that's like 98% of dating is being rejected.
Right.
So you're going to have to get over that. And there's no easy way to do it other than just kind of throwing yourself in it and just continue to experience it for a while and you kind of get used to it. But,
and that's something, Keith, that I guess I want to nudge you on. You mentioned that you should have lost weight 20 years ago. And so I don't know how old you are, but obviously you're quite a bit older than 20. And so one thing that I'll offer you is this. Because this dating thing is going to be new for you, in some ways, you're going to be, and I mean this with respect, I hope you understand what I mean by this, you're almost going to be a teenager for a while. You're going to be going through that season of time where you're sort of bumbling and learning to date.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be awkward.
It is going to be awkward. And you're going to go through some of the social lessons that the normal curve of status quo humanity generally goes through during those pubescent years where they're trying on dating for the first time. So you're going to go through that. And it's going to be difficult, I think. That doesn't mean it's a wall. Like, I just think it's a path. It's going to be something you probably need to go through. And you're going to need to give yourself permission to be awkward and to go through that and to be unsure. That's the typical kind of teenage mentality of insecurity and trying things out and exploring. That's probably going to be a season for you, and that's okay. I think that's sort of something you have to go through.
Absolutely.
We just associate it with being a teenager, but I think it's just the entree to dating mentality that's coming your way.
Yep, definitely. And I think, too, one last point that you made here in this, you talked about possibly losing your support system, which is your brother. So he's been on this journey with you. He's lost the weight. He's almost to his goal weight. So Now you're going to have to do the rest of it on your own.
Yes.
Maybe or maybe not. I mean, he can still be a support system for you, but his path is just going to be a little bit different. But there's a lot of different ways that you can still get other people involved. Think about the online community. There's a lot of online places, online forums and stuff dedicated to weight loss that can be very helpful. And having that support can be incredibly helpful. I mean, even for me, like, when it comes to exercise, like I exercise quite a bit. I'll work out. I'll go to the gym 5 to 6 days a week.
Damn.
And I've been doing that for the last 2 years.
Wow.
But there's times where I lose motivation. Like for, I would say the past 4 weeks, my motivation has been at an all-time low.
Okay.
It has been really difficult for me to get up and go to the gym and stay active. But there's some YouTube channels that I subscribe to. And when I start watching those videos, it gets me motivated.
Okay.
And it's like a support system that I have. Like I feel like I know these people, but I don't.
Right.
But it's kind of like that old
podcasting
meme.
meme.
That meme, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I feel like I know these people.
Right.
And when I watch those videos, I feel like they're supporting me, even though they've never met me before.
You're drawing energy from there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of things like that you can utilize.
I love it. And Keith, I guess my 2 final wrap-up thoughts. We need to be careful not to underestimate the effect of your identity shift, how that's going to affect you down road, right? So I expect that Nick's point is right. You're probably going to have a motivational challenge coming up because as you really start to see that different guy in the mirror, some people become afraid to continue, or they become like, well, maybe I should just stop because I've met my goals, right? I'm no longer where I was. And you start getting that diminishing returns where the last pounds are the hardest to lose and things like that. So I do think you need to address your motivation. And then the last thought I want to offer you is something you didn't ask about, but I just want to get ahead of it. Whenever somebody goes through like a huge identity shift like this, especially if they were overweight for a long time and they've told themselves they're not allowed to date, they usually spend years and years and years becoming willfully blind to like romance and like how to flirt with others and be flirted with in return. This is probably going to be an area you're going to need to challenge yourself in. You're probably going to have to discover the side of you that is aggressive, not aggressive in a negative way, but like is pursuing of others and knows how to send signals and has that little bit of confidence. A really good book that you might want to pick up is a illustrated book. It's a photo book, and it's called The Flirting Bible. And The Flirting Bible is just pictures and very quick descriptions of natural Western humanity social flirting engagements. So ways that humans tend to flirt. And it just gives you all these ideas. And I want to put that in front of you because honestly, you might be a little rusty on this, right? You might be oblivious to a lot of things. You might not have any ideas inside of how to flirt with others. And this could be a helpful little manual for you too.
Okay. Thanks for writing in, Keith. That was good.
Congrats, Keith. Keep it up, man.
Yeah, definitely. Let us know how it goes.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will discuss vacationing without my spouse. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's TheraProducer sponsor is Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, known by his stage name, ASAP Rocky. Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop is an American rapper, singer, songwriter, record producer, model, actor, and music video director, and current inmate in a prison in Europe. He is a member of the hip-hop group ASAP Mob, from which he adopted his moniker. Rocky released his debut mixtape, Live Love ASAP, in 2011 to critical acclaim. The success of his mixtape led to a record deal with Polo Grounds Music, RCA Records, and Sony Music Entertainment. He subsequently recorded his 2013 debut album, Long Live ASAP, which has also well received by critics. ASAP debuted number 1 on Billboard 200, and he is currently seeking some kind of pardon from a president not overseeing the country in which he is in prison.
Stay strong, Nathan.
Stay strong, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop. If you'd like to join Nathan and make the show possible, you can go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy.
We're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy. Our next question is about vacationing without my spouse.
Hello! I'm going out of town for vacation with my 3 kids, ages 16 months old, 6 years old, and 9 years old, and will be flying from Georgia to California and staying with family for 2 weeks. I didn't want to stay quite that long, but when booking the flights, that worked out to be the best deal for the day I chose to return. My husband couldn't go because he has no vacation time left and is having a hard time with it, and says things like, I wouldn't go on vacation without you, I don't understand how you're okay with this, or I feel like you don't care and will be sad and won't miss me. I spoke to him a few times and made sure he was okay with it and told him that I thought I was going to visit my family, or I thought I'm not going to visit my family makes me want to cry, and it's hard for me to not go visit. We go to visit my family every year in California. He is from Georgia, and I'm originally from California. We're in marital counseling, and our counselor is talking with us every session about how to deal with that, so there's no arguing, and my husband is getting the tools to deal with being by himself while we're gone. We have had issues in the past where if I'm away or go somewhere for whatever reason, which has rarely ever happened, he has started fights and thinks he loves me and wants me more than I do him. I told him that we're different people and he can't expect me to be just like him. Is that fair? Do you have any thoughts on how we can handle this differently? I, of course, will miss him, but I don't want to not go because he will be sad and upset. I feel like that's not fair. Any thoughts or input is greatly appreciated. Thank you. Signed, Devoted Listener.
Awesome.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that was a good question. So, vacationing without your spouse. It sounds like there's already some issues going on that
they're in counseling,
dealing with,
which is good. I like that they're communicating.
Right, absolutely. And I think, this one's kind of difficult for me to relate to in a way. Like if my spouse tells me they're going to go on vacation to Italy,
right,
then you're resentful. Then I'm like, yeah. Well,
I'm resentful because you're going to have a great time,
and you're going to be having. But it's more than that. It's you're going to be having a great time without me.
Right.
The feelings are a little bit different if my spouse tells me I'm going to go away for a week to spend time with family and I'm taking the kids with me.
Yeah,
like
I'm
that's
all alone.
Yeah, that's actually for me a level of excitement
that
I rarely ever get to experience. You know,
do whatever I want.
So from that aspect, it's hard to.
I'm going to drink a lot of beer and stay up all night.
I know, yeah, it's like a kid. Like no one's going to tell me to go to bed.
Yeah. No, but I think the real question, Nick, underneath this is, what does it mean whenever we have an impasse where our partner feels a certain way about an action, and are we responsible for their feelings, right? Because that's the impasse I hear in the writer is like, hey, I love my husband here. I want to be kind, but I feel that I should go see my family. This is not an absurd or bizarre thing for me to do. And yet I'm going to be made to feel ashamed. And now I'm struggling with that because now I'm kind of resenting him for making me feel ashamed or in some way shaming me. And how much responsibility do I have, over that person's feelings? And where is the little line that we draw between like being attentive to another person's emotional needs and listening to them and trying to adapt, and then at some point saying, I'm sorry, I'm not going to let you sort of hold me emotionally hostage here.
Sure.
Because you're the person that's more fragile in this moment. That's a tricky situation to navigate.
It's very difficult. And I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but I'm going to go back again to my favorite thing of all time, CBT. Cognitive Behavioral Therapy.
Yeah.
And just this whole idea that it's not the event that causes the emotional reaction. It's the meaning we give the event.
Yes.
So from his perspective, it's not that you are leaving for a week to go visit family.
Right.
It's what it means to him that you're leaving for a week to go visit family.
Right.
That's the core issue.
Yes.
Whatever meaning that he is attributing to that.
Yes.
Now, is that your responsibility that you need to fix this meaning? No. That's his. It needs to be worked out between the two of you.
Right.
But I do think that there are some things that you could do to help explore what that meaning is.
Right.
And to challenge that meaning.
I agree.
Because whatever the meaning is, like for him, it may mean exactly kind of like what you're talking about, where he believes he loves you more than you love him. So by you leaving, he interprets that, or he views that as just more evidence to an existing belief system.
Right.
And that's the thing that needs to be challenged, because I'm sure that's not the case.
No.
But for a lot of our fears, it doesn't matter whether or not it's logical.
Right.
It's something that it's like an obsessive thought. We
Yeah.
get that in our head.
It's
It's
irrational.
very difficult
it's a
to
meaning
shake that.
thing. Yeah,
right.
it's a belief.
And so to be able to, because often with situations like this, there are ways to change or challenge that meaning, but still continue to do these other behaviors that you're doing, right? Still be able to go on this vacation, but to be able to challenge this by showing that that's not the case in other areas.
I think that this is complicated. So I think you're right. I think that where you're bringing in CBT, I think it's an effective way to help the writer understand some of the underneath the surface dynamic, right? However, this situation, even though it's very specific, is writ large across all relationships. Right? We all have to deal with this, which is if we could impose one principle, right? Which is treat others the way you want to be treated. So the writer's like, if you went on vacation without me, it wouldn't bother me, right? And like my wife and I have this same problem, like, 'cause she's a teacher, she gets the whole summer off. Yeah. And I want her to enjoy time. I want her to go off on her own. I want her to not have to work. I want her to have vacation time, right? And I don't resent her for that. But if I take an afternoon to myself, it's a problem. And like, she won't say it. Like, she won't be mean to me. But like, I can tell there's coldness between us because she resents it, right? Or if she has to, it's pretty, like if she even has to like go do something, like, oh, you have to go out to see your parents to do this task thing. And I take the kids to like a play place, you know, in her absence. She's like, well, I missed out. You know, she has this FOMO, this like fear of missing out thing. And so it's shoe on the other foot kind of thing, right? So you and I usually advise people, don't treat others the way you want to be treated. Treat others the way they want to be treated, right? So we have to learn our mate. We have to understand that this is their particular need. And just because I don't relate to that, just because I don't share that thing, just because if the shoe is on the other foot, doesn't mean I don't have a responsibility to hear you, to understand your point, and to try to attend to it if I can. And so this is what I'm talking about whenever I talk about like that very thin high wire of balancing this out, right? And I think every relationship resonates to this, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where, yeah, your mate wants certain things a certain way or interprets things a certain way. You in no way resonate with that.
Yeah.
And it's like you blow right past that problem, but then you get taught by them, by their anger usually, that they're not okay with that. And you have to like, it's very tricky, right? To be like, well, I wouldn't mind. But that doesn't matter. Right. They do. Right. So you do have to respect
and how
that.
much of myself do I sacrifice to maintain what's going on?
Yes.
Right. And then at some point you have to make a decision.
What's an unreasonable request?
Right.
You know, at some point it's like, well, should I not go see my family? Is that a reasonable request in order to attend to his feelings? So this is a tough one. I don't want it to be simple. It's not. I think that all couples everywhere relate to this, where one member is hypersensitive about something that another one's not, and we could just tease them. And like, this is something, writer, that I like that you're doing. I like that you're bringing it to counseling. I like that you're respecting your husband in the sense that you're not minimizing or belittling his feelings. That's one thing that's super unhelpful.
Yes.
Whenever you go powwow with your buddies, girls do this, guys do this, and you just circle up and criticize the other person.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, he's needy. You know, he's fragile. Like, he shouldn't be like that. What kind? You know, that's silly. He can't do this to you. And it's like, that's unproductive, man.
Yeah.
Like, you need to try to understand his perspective and then try to come up with some kind of compromise that allows you to still live your life while honoring something that they're asking for, right?
Right.
Which is tricky.
Yeah.
And I think I'm glad you're in couples counseling, because that should be the professional who could help negotiate that.
Yeah, because I think a lot of this goes back to the underlying issue. Like, there are so many things that happen that we think are the issue, but really those are just surface issues.
Right.
It's all the things that are underneath, which is the emotional connection or the meaning that we give certain events. And I think that's the stuff that has to be dealt with. If you fight about the stuff that's on the surface, I don't think you ever reach any kind of resolution. Because what ends up happening when you resolve the stuff on the surface is that somebody makes a huge sacrifice.
Yeah.
Somebody doesn't get to go see their family because somebody else has a problem with it.
And then there's
or somebody goes sees their family and there's resentment because she left.
Yes.
You're not dealing with, that's just the surface level. You're not getting to the underneath, the buried meaning, the emotion, the connection, the all of
You're
that stuff down
absolutely
there.
right. And I think all couples relate to this. It could be as simple as one member of the couple saying, hey, I want to go out with my friends tonight and have a beer and do whatever, and the other one being like really, really not okay with it, or being like naggy or something, and being like, well, what time are you coming back? Well, I'll text you a million times. And then like that person could be like, well, if you went and did the same thing, I don't care. You know, like, it doesn't matter to
But
me.
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't. But that's
not,
irrelevant. That's
exactly,
not the standard. You don't get to impose your standard on their feelings.
It's not a reciprocal thing.
Feelings don't have to be logical. Feelings don't have to be rational. Feelings just are. And that's what we talk a lot about therapy, is your truth, right? Mm-hmm. So that your husband's truth is this makes him feel discarded, disrespected, and alone. And so I guess, writer, I do want you to be responsive to that. I don't want you to be belittling or minimizing of that. I want you, the thing that you said you're most worried about is your husband starting a fight because of this. And that's an area where I think if you're learning how to identify this with your therapist by listening to our show, you can tell your husband that. Whenever he seems picky or he seems like he's starting a problem, pull him aside with a gracious spirit. Don't be vindictive. Don't be angry. Don't be provoked. And tell him, hey, whatever his name is, let's give him the name John. Hey, John, are you really upset that I didn't make you a coffee? Or is this really about the trip that's coming up? Are you still feeling pretty low about that? And, I like that kind of method because I think it cuts to what Nick said. It's the heart of the real problem, right? It's the real thing. And now we get layers and layers and layers of conflict when if we were to drill all the way down, there's a meaning associated with something else. And that's what's really bothering the guy. Mm-hmm. So I'm always for communication. I'm for dissecting the message, getting to the root of it, getting down to the bone, and calling out what's really there. But the thing I'll challenge you, writer, is to be generous, to be gracious, to be understanding, to be empathic, to help your husband feel heard and understood. Even if you're still not going to acquiesce to his request, it's very important that at least he feel heard and understood by that and reasoned with to the extent that you can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
It's a great question.
It is.
It's a real life thing. I think all of us relate to that.
So. Oh yeah, I mean that we've all had that experience. Anybody who's been in a relationship has had this experience.
Yes.
It may not be about a vacation, but it's about something.
Oh, so there's always something. Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember I used to make a joke. My wife, one of the cardinal sins of our marriage is if I eat without her. So if I
really?
So sometimes like you'll be like, hey, you want to go get lunch? And I have to really think about that. Like it'd be a lot easier if you were like, you want to go get drunk? She'd be like, yeah, I don't want to get drunk with you anyway, Jim. I don't care. But if I eat without her, she's like, well, what did you have? Did you go somewhere nice? You had sushi? I wanted sushi. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good example because to use that as an example of what I was talking about, it's not about the sushi.
No,
it's not about the food.
Yeah,
it's about the underlying message of he's doing something without me.
Yeah.
And that bothers me.
I would have enjoyed that.
I would have enjoyed it too.
I was cast aside.
Yeah. Because you have this picture of the two of us being there together and enjoying that, and now that's not happening.
Yeah.
Gone.
Well, it doesn't help that when you and I are at lunch, I always take pictures of us and send them to her, and, we're doing kissy face and all that stuff.
That probably doesn't help.
I think it makes her jealous.
We're not going to stop doing it.
No, because you know what? I'm not going to be held hostage by her insecurities. Nick and I have a very special relationship, and I will not let you ruin that. Adding her to my apologies list.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will discuss My Job is Killing Me. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's TheraProducer sponsor is Dr. Ben Don. Dr. Don is a British politician serving as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and leader of the Conservative Party since July of 2019. He has been the Member of Parliament for Uxbridge and South Ruislip since 2015 and was the MP for Henley from 2001 to 2008. He also served as Mayor of London from 2008 to 2016 and Foreign Secretary from 16 to 18. Ben identifies as a one-nation conservative and has been associated with both economically and socially liberal policies. If you'd like to join Prime Minister Don, you can go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy.
We're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy. Our next question. My job is killing me.
Dear Nick and Jim, I work in the theater industry. All right, hold on. You're going to want to listen to this one. Let's wake Jacob up. This one I think is very relevant.
Life Coach Jacob.
Jacob on the duty.
I just want to apologize to you right now for your career choice.
Damn it, listen to the letter. All right, hold on.
I listened to the first line. That was enough.
I'm already sorry for this person. All right, dear Nick and Jim and Jacob now. I work in the theater industry as an assistant technical director for a small theater company. I fell in love with theater when I was in college. I've struggled with depression and anxiety my whole life, and I was very lonely after moving away from school. After graduating, things were looking up when I stumbled into my current job. I thought it was a good move, much better pay and benefits. However, I am back to the grind of constantly working on shows in a drastically understaffed department that relies on volunteer labor to do most of the work. I have some great volunteers that work for me, but they are not reliable, and my coworkers are not trustworthy. they're lazy and ignorant and don't seem to care if things get done on time or at all. I wind up taking on most of the work, and management is constantly telling me that I exceed all expectations, but it's killing me physically and mentally to keep up with this job. I do the work of about 5 people by myself, building and painting sets and props, engineering lights, building maintenance and cleaning the backstage areas. My coworkers are not capable of cleaning up after themselves. The problem is it's what my college degree is in, and I don't know how to do anything else. It's hard to find another job in the theater when I am restricted to my current location. I am very much in love. My girlfriend and I just bought a house we've been saving for and talking about living together starting at the end of the year. Leaving her to go work out of state is not an option, and I don't want to work tours or cruises either. I don't know what to do. My job is making me miserable, and I want out of it, but I can't afford to take a lower paying job or be unemployed. I feel trapped in this awful job. Sincerely, Spotlight Scoop. Hey, it's a scoop too. They're all scoops, aren't they? So, this is your industry, sir.
Yep.
The idea that a whole bunch of people...
Did you write this?
Did you write into this? How much do you relate to that? I mean, you've been in so many different roles. Front of stage, back of stage. You've been in the production side, all of it. I mean, is it common? It's such a team experience.
No, that is common. Everything Spotlight Scoop just said is
like out of your
extraordinarily common.
Wow. So it's like that. What do? Do you just? I mean, you suck it up, you push through, but it's killing you.
Any theater, any of it it's always understaffed, and it does not. It seems to not matter the size, budget, anything else.
No matter what they're trying to do, they do not have enough staff to do it.
If it is an entirely volunteer based community theater, or if it is $100 million,
doesn't matter.
Production
they will not have enough hands on deck.
There are not enough people to do what the production staff wants to be done.
Yeah. And the culture, I think, of like entertainment is that whole the show must go on. The show must go on.
I hate that.
Yeah, and everybody just do what you got to do. Get it done. And it's like, how do you stay in your professional role?
I tell you exactly what I do is I rail against that. I rail against
hate that.
I really do. I tell people all the time.
No,
it doesn't.
Yeah, no, it does not have to go on.
You know what happens if the show doesn't go on? A few people may be mildly inconvenienced and might go to dinner early that night.
Right.
Yeah. That's worst case scenario.
Yeah. This is not high stakes.
It doesn't matter two shits if the show goes on.
But the show must go on, Jacob.
And I'll remind you, I'm someone who puts shows on for a living.
Yeah.
It does not matter.
But that culture is sort of like do or die. Everybody has to do like anything that's needed.
The only reason that is out there is because of what I was just saying.
Yeah.
Because everything is always understaffed.
Yeah.
It's understaffed. It's underbudgeted. You had the show Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark on Broadway.
Yeah, people were like getting killed.
It was the most expensive show to ever go on Broadway.
Wow.
They did not spend enough money on that show. To do what they wanted to do, they did not spend enough money.
Right.
They did not bring in the right people. They didn't bring in the right production elements to do everything that they were wanting to do. And the result of that was people got hurt.
So, question. You have now been in that industry writ large, and your spouse is in that industry writ large, the greater idea of entertainment, for a long time, and it's absolutely your skill set. It's absolutely what you know. You know your industry. The writer is talking about feeling like, so how do you do this? How do you endure? I mean, is it common to just keep shopping for other gigs until you find one that is
common.
Less bad? Is that how you do it?
Common. It sounds like this writer doesn't want to change gigs.
It sounds like that's their passion. They said that's what they got.
No, I mean, it sounds like they don't want to leave the job that they are currently in.
Yeah, they said it's killing them.
Or if it's a smaller community, maybe they don't have the option.
Right. So I don't know. They're stuck. I mean, but they're overwhelmed and overstressed. But I mean, how do you overcome that?
My advice would be, you got to do one of two things. One is you have to decide where your lane is. Say, this is what I'm going to do every day. I'm going to come in. This is my purview, and I'm going to deal with this every day. Or, second, you have to go to the higher-ups and become empowered to deal with all the stuff that you're talking about.
Oh, right. You need to become the leader and be
You-
like, okay, give me the sword. Like,
Yeah,
let me
exactly.
start taking people out.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
And, for instance, cleaning up.
Right.
You said this, the Spotlight Scoop said that they have an issue just cleaning up after other people because they can't clean up after themselves when they work.
Right.
I would say, hey, first thing we're going to do today, guys, every day is we're going to clean up.
Right.
You guys left a fucking mess in here yesterday.
That's going to
so
start
today,
with this.
We're cleaning up.
But you have to be the leader. You have to have the rod to
Everybody,
get that done.
Everybody grab your broom and clean up.
Right.
And it's gonna be a couple of days probably of not terribly pleasant things.
Yeah. Right. But let me ask you this though, Jacob. So much of this industry is we're all in this together, right? So like everybody at some point, well, I kind of, that's the perception anyway, right?
Is.
Because it's almost like being in the military where it's like, listen, at some point you're not fighting for the leaders, you're fighting for the guy next to you. You're fighting for the guy who relies on your part to get the next thing done. And there is kind of like this all in it together, right? We bleed as one. So that's the tricky thing is like it seems like the leadership of these institutions doesn't give the resources that you need to succeed. And then they just assume everybody will work it out. If you stay in your lane, though, and you say, no, I wash my hands of these other tasks. I am one job. This is my job. I do this one task. And I'm going to give you all the dignity to fail. Doesn't that risk the entire thing failing?
Yeah.
And you have to be okay with that. You have to be able to pull yourself back.
I think to keep your sanity, you do.
You have to be okay with that.
I really think you do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have to decide what's going to be, and this is any job.
It is really any job.
You have to
yes.
decide. I mean, that's the thing is people want to say that theater and entertainment is so radically different. It's not. It's the same as any job.
It is like that.
I mean, you have to decide, or I mean, you have to figure out. It's not usually a decision. It's usually a process. You have to figure out what you're going to be in charge of.
Right.
And then only the things that you're in charge of, that's all that you can let bother you.
Right. And you have to stay. So this actually comes down to a therapeutic concept, what he's talking about, which is giving others the dignity of risk or giving others the dignity to fail, right? Respecting others enough to allow them to fail.
Right.
And that's a tricky thing sometimes because it might affect you. You know, like it might be a project that does affect you. If the show doesn't go on, maybe you don't get paid that day or whatever. Yeah. But like my sister was a Starbucks barista for a long time. She talked about it all the time. Starbucks like basically created this empire similar to like any institution like Amazon, Starbucks, Walmart. They're never properly staffed, you know, because they want those profits. And so they just indoctrinate this culture of like, you know, we do this for the brand. They call all their staff associates. And she'd say that all the time. Or no, partners. My sister used to say that all the time. She used to go, you know, well, I don't know if that person's a partner. And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure Howard ain't cutting you guys a bigger dividends check. You know, like, you get paid your hourly rate. Like, you need to clock out when you're done and leave. But, like, they were clocking out and, like, going back on the floor and, like, getting things done or whatever because it's needed, because the team needs us. And it's like, you know, I agree with Jacob. Like, not just because I'm pro-labor, like, and I want people to, like, earn their respect and for the leadership to have to figure it out, but because it's unhealthy for you. You'll lose your sanity.
Is. Right. It really is.
You're a doormat.
And you have to remember, and I tell this to people in entertainment all the time and on all levels. When I go talk at colleges, I talk about this. I've talked to high school students before, I talk about this. It's a job.
Right.
It's just a job.
Yes.
I have had people that I work with get furious at me for saying this.
You mentioned this once, and this makes so much more sense what that means.
Life,
yeah.
Everything in my life is more important than my job.
It so much makes it doesn't it make a lot more sense now that he says that? Because when he first said that, I thought, yeah, it's a great principle. But now, especially when you understand like the cult-like mantra that can go into entertainment, you kind of had to take a contrarian stance and let your colleagues know, I will drop the ball if you throw it up and don't try to catch it yourself. Yeah. Like, I will not dive onto the floor to save the show. Like,
there are a lot
do
of
your job.
There are a lot of things that are my gig.
Right.
There are a lot of things that are in my purview.
Sure.
And I will take care of every single one of
That's
those
my
things.
Stuff. Yep.
The stuff that isn't,
I won't.
You know, things like at the show that I work at one of the biggest shows in Las Vegas, making it one of the biggest shows in the country.
Yeah.
There are things that are my job that I take care of every single day.
Right.
I was there until 2 a.m. last night.
Wow.
Dealing with an after-show party thing. That's the gig.
Falls into it.
I got no problem with it. I'm not complaining about it. I'm just telling you what I was doing yesterday.
As long as it's my job.
Yeah, that's my gig. There are things that I helped out with yesterday that it's questionable whether or not those are my gig. But it did not take away me helping out with those things. Did not
Didn't
take
stop
away
you.
from me doing anything that was my gig.
Right.
And I had no problem helping out with those.
Sure.
There are things that are absolutely not my gig.
Right.
Box office.
Yeah. Not doing it.
I have no idea what they do. No idea. I know where the box office is. That's kind of the end of my knowledge.
That's the end of my
about
knowledge.
it.
I can tell you where to find it.
And I kind of do that on purpose because, like, that's not my gig.
Yes.
I don't want to know anything about it. I know
Yes.
the people who are there. I'm friendly with them. They're nice people.
Right.
But I don't know what they do. They don't know what I do. And everybody is happier that way.
But you have to have the self-respect and the boldness and kind of a little bit of devil-may-care swagger to be able to give others the dignity. And this happens in all job sites. Another thing that this is kind of resonating of is the hardest working people are the ones that the leadership trusts, and they keep giving you more stuff.
Uh-huh.
And then the other guy gets paid the same amount as you, but they don't trust him with stuff, so they don't give it to him.
And this is the part that I can relate to because I've been in this situation multiple times. You know that. We've worked together in multiple
I gave you everything.
situations.
I didn't want to do it.
I know.
I didn't trust me.
I'm glad we're finally talking about that. But I can relate to a lot of this stuff where I've had people that, like, when the ball drops,
Right.
I've had to jump in and pick it up.
Right.
But it's part of that also is because that was my job.
Yeah.
As an administrator,
If it's your gig,
my
okay.
That's
job
part of the gig.
My job is everything at the rehab needs to work.
Sure, yeah, at some point. Well,
So there's
that would
no,
be like,
like,
a
I can't-
director,
right.
Is that a director at like a show level? Is that the
I don't
person?
know.
Okay, but anything that's not in my space, don't even
doesn't-
know what they do.
One thing we call me at my show is the oh shit guy.
Right.
If something goes wrong production wise with the show,
Oh shit, get Jacob.
oh shit. And the idea is that I'm there before anybody knows that something is going wrong. I'm already
Right.
there fixing it.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I've been in several situations that I know that I'm jumping in and I'm dealing with stuff that isn't
Technically your job.
my job.
Right.
Right. But I'm aware of this and I've got really good boundaries in the
Right.
sense that I'm doing this and I'm going to remember that I'm doing this because I'm going to use this as credit that I'm going to cash in later on.
Okay, so you
Okay.
will do the job.
So
and then check in
absolutely.
with the person whose job it was and let them know you did it.
Well, not only that, but for me, what's really important in my career is my reputation,
Yes, that's true.
which is why when we got fired,
yeah,
I was unemployed for all of 15 minutes.
right. Yeah, you called them on the way out.
Yes, I had a job. I had my next job before I got to my car.
Yeah, which is always, by the way, your fantasy. I remember
It
you've
is.
told me that for years. That your fantasy is you wanted to be in a meeting with a boss who was being a jerk to you or something like that, and just pull out a phone while the conversation's going, and then call somebody and then go, "Hey, is that job still on the table? I'll take it."
Yeah, and then just
hang
walk
up and
out
be
of the
like,
room.
"This was a great meeting. Take
Yeah,
care."
it's
Yeah,
been a dream.
yeah.
But part of establishing
You got a lot of these fantasies.
part of establishing that reputation is by doing stuff like this.
Right.
By jumping in and solving problems
Yes.
that aren't necessarily my job, but I think it's all about balance. Like, you can't do that and then just be a slave to the program.
Yes.
You have to do that knowing that you're jumping in, knowing what you're
Right.
doing, but also being able to later come back and say, hey, you know what? I've been doing all of this work, and you're aware that I've been doing all this work because
Sure.
you've been congratulating me
If
for
it's
this.
part of your strategy,
And,
right.
and,
I'm good
and,
with that.
And in the end, I think, I would like a raise.
Yeah.
Or this promotion's coming up. I want to be considered for this promotion.
Right.
I've shown you what I could do. One of the guys that we had working for us,
Yeah.
Junior.
Okay.
I interviewed him.
Yeah.
That's the thing that we loved about him.
He was our oh shit guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
He
But
was
not
our
only
shit
that,
guy.
but like he was trained really well to when he comes in and he presents a problem to me, he presents a problem and then he presents 3 ways that he's
He wants
already
to
thought
solve it.
about
Yeah.
solving it,
Yep.
and he runs it by me instead of just saying, I got a problem, I don't know what to do, fix it.
Yeah, right.
He's like, I got a problem, here's my ideas.
Right, right.
I was like, awesome.
So I agree with you. Like, being a person, like, what Jacob's talking about, like being a Swiss Army knife. Like, you just are, you have the capacity to solve a billion problems. At some point, you have to go with that Joker mentality from Batman, where he says, my father always told me if you're good at something, don't do it for free. Like, you got to create that boundary and be like, I'm sorry, I'm going to give you guys the dignity of understanding your own pain. Because if I just rescue you from this, you won't even know that there is a problem. And then one day I'll be held accountable because my part of the job didn't get done. Because I was too busy carrying water for these guys.
And I would say and I just want to expand on my other solution on this. The other solution is just to be in charge.
Right. I'm already solving all the problems.
To make it all your problem.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Just say like, hey, here's everything that I'm doing.
Right.
And I want to make this official.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I actually think that's the fusion of the
I think
two
that's
points.
a fine solution as well.
I'm good with that. But I
Yeah.
don't want to see you just sitting there languishing, never
gotta
getting
figure out
respected, never getting anything for it.
You got to
Yeah.
figure out what's going to be in your lane, and then you got to stick to those things.
Yes. And I think
Whatever
that
those things
it's
are
a
gonna be.
dangerous game. It's a dangerous game. You know, because, like, I mean, Nevada's like an at-will employer state. Like, I mean, they could just be like, well, fine, if you're not going to solve all my problems anymore, then you're out. And you have to be willing to take that risk in order to, you know, assert yourself.
Maybe, but it sounds like they already know that they can't live without him.
Yeah, that's true.
That's,
Yeah.
I mean,
you want to
And
leverage
you also
that.
don't have to do it in a hostile way.
That's
Right.
true.
I'm being
yeah.
hostile right now
Right.
because this stuff drives me crazy. But you don't have to do it in this tone.
Right. Do as
go-
Jacob says, not as
You
he
go
does.
in and you have a normal person sit down meeting.
I feel like this
with
is kind
other
of
normal people.
Like this is a trigger for you. Should we have said trigger warning?
Trigger warning. Jacob perked up during that letter. He's like, I have some things to say. You're on notice.
Theater is just so fucking stupid.
It's an interesting reality,
terrible.
man. So to the writer, I think that I agree with what both the guys said. You know, Jacob and Nick, I think, have good points. You do have to find your lane. You do have to assert boundaries. I think that is inherent for you to succeed. If you're going to do everything, I think Jacob and Nick's point is correct. That I'm fine with that. If it's part of your growth strategy, if you want to come to your leadership and say, listen, here's all that I do for you. I enjoy this project. I'm going to tell you what, over the next 6 months, I hope that you'll continue to see me do those things. And then I'd like to have a conversation about my package.
Yeah,
And see what we can do.
you know the last point that he made here too.
I'm always ready to have a conversation.
Zing. Jacob, again, you have to put on pants. No, I do so much
I will
around here.
not.
That is the benefit I want written into my contract.
The last point that he makes here, I think everybody can relate to. I've gone through this too, where you've gone to college for something,
Yeah,
you
it's
get
what you
into
did.
the career,
Right.
you've established yourself, and then now you're like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore.
I've heard you do
and
this
that
so
is
many times.
Yeah, it's a scary thing to think about. Like, you know, I've got a bachelor's and a master's
what I
degree.
do.
I've got an
Right.
internship that I've completed. I've got
License.
all of this
Yeah.
you know, license
What do
and
I
all
do?
this stuff, and I don't want to do it
I
anymore.
remember once you were
And
like, I
it's
think
like-
I'm going to go back to school. And I was like, to do what? And you're like, maybe be a lawyer. And I was like, dude, you're way too far down the road to do that now.
I have a friend who's doing that now.
Really? Just rebooted.
My age was
Yeah.
a very successful performer,
Wow.
and after doing that for years, and like the lead in Broadway shows.
Wow.
You know, very
Career.
successful
Right.
performer.
Career.
And he's at UCLA right now,
Just doing something new.
becoming a lawyer.
Yeah,
Wow.
I don't think
I
you're-
like lawyers the fallback
Yeah.
now.
I don't think you're. I don't think you're ever too old to do a career.
No,
change.
not
You
at all.
absolutely
Not
could
at
be.
all.
And
But
also,
it-
like all of that schooling and everything that you're talking about,
It
you know,
all
like,
comes back.
You got a
Yeah.
bachelor's degree in theater and
Cool.
whatever. Like, just because you go do something that isn't
Right.
directly related to your bachelor's degree does not mean that
No.
those 4 years were wasted.
Not at all.
Yeah. You don't
not at
just
all.
You've
forget
got a lot of
everything.
stuff out of those 4 years. Like,
Absolutely. That's a
just
good
because
point.
that's not what's on the piece of paper, who gives a
Who
fuck?
cares? Yeah.
And now the other thing that you can do, I don't know how well it's going to apply to this specific situation, but for the rest of the folks out there listening to this who can relate to that piece where they've invested so much in it, they don't want to go back and start a different career, but they're also kind of stuck.
Right.
There's all sorts of different things that you can do to try to change up your job a little bit.
That's true.
Right? Like I've been working at this for 16 years and I finally found like the right mix of what I enjoy.
That's true. Yeah.
And-
there might be a different role in
right.
the same industry.
Yeah. So I'm within the industry, but I'm not doing anything similar to what I was doing in the past.
Right.
It's completely different, but I love it. Like now I'm energized again. I've changed what I'm doing. I'm focused. I enjoy going
You
to
enjoy
work.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
So to the writer, this is such a unique industry. I mean, when the writer starts talking about like, I don't want to join a cruise line, and I'm thinking, wow, man, what a unique industry. And I know that Paul has talked about that, like going to work on the cruises, and I'm like, wow, man, it's such an a unique thing. In some ways, it relates to every job in America. In some ways, it is very specific.
It's not really though, because I know exactly why, and I didn't say this, but you read that in the email.
Yeah.
I know exactly why Spotlight is saying those things, and it's because those those are options that have been presented to him by other people.
Oh, okay.
And
Somebody
so
offered it.
He is addressing specific things that have been brought up to him, just the same way that you guys have been offered specific things multiple times.
It's a gig. Somebody came to you.
Yeah, I'm sure there are aspects of your career that you have been offered specific gigs multiple times that you just don't want to do.
Yeah, that's true.
It's the same thing.
That's the challenge. Okay. But it'd be pretty cool to go work on a cruise. You know what?
You say that, but
it's not.
It's not?
It's not.
Okay. It's funny because there's this couples cruise line that did actually reach out to me and ask if I would be interested in like going on some kind of special thing with them to like, I don't know, serve in some capacity. And I was like, what? So I looked into
doing a special one-off thing is very different.
That sounds
than,
cool.
Working full-time on a cruise line.
Yeah. But it turned out to be like a swingers cruise. And I asked my wife, she said I can't go. So I'm not going to be canceling those episodes.
Why didn't we use that as an example of
of things? Yeah, your feelings are not my feelings. That's how you feel, okay? I want to do my thing. I'm not going to be held hostage by you and your damn needs. Great question, writer. Good luck.
Scoop.
Yeah, good luck, man. All right, we've reached the end of the show. We're going to run through it at a pretty quick pace here. Announcements, nothing too big. Book club exists somewhere out in the ether. I do have some apologies, and then we do need to thank our patrons, because this episode is airing the first week of the month of August, so that means we got a lot of thank yous to say. But I have a few apologies. Dear Ebony and Jet magazines, I'm sorry that I complained when a new parent company purchased you because I felt that the pictures I took for your cover are now in a stranger's hands. I knew what I was getting into when I submitted my headshots to your Power 100 most influential members of the black community, and I hope you'll consider my self-nomination active for 2019.
I'm surprised you didn't... Oh, never mind. I was going to say, I'm surprised you didn't ask me to write a letter of recommendation.
Oh, no, you did.
But you never have.
Yeah, no, I've
you
never
always write
asked
them anyway.
you, ever. Yeah, you. I have plenty
Great.
of them with your
Thank
signature on them. You should never give me that. Dear Religion, I'm sorry that I wrecked you with a perfect score on the Pew Research Religious Competency Quiz. My arrogant boasting violated central tenets of each of your respective codes, and it would be a shame if my actions caused religion to be associated with hypocrisy for the first time in history.
To be fair, they're all very easy questions for the most part.
You didn't get a perfect score.
And you caused
got
the plague
14 out of 15.
of crickets.
Oh, yeah.
Dear Las Vegas, I'm sorry that I implied that the millions of grasshoppers descending upon you are a biblical plague of judgment for charging for parking. I'm sure that if God wanted to smite you, it would have happened a long time before today. So there it is.
Very good. And we want to thank our Patreons who support the show at patreon.com/therapy. We've got one new THERAPAL this week. Jim Hunter, congratulations and welcome aboard.
Yep, and we want to thank all the THERAPODs who have joined us, who contribute at the $5 or better level all the way up to $20. Want to thank Andrea Anderson, Brad Kefauver, Brian Lehman, Brooks Lyle, Chelsea Saracen, Corey Owens, Curtis Kiwi Fruit Scoop Hanlon, Dan Martin, David Pollock, Easy Whip, Fred Bashara Jr., Gavin Bristow, Heather Psychotic Scoop Crace. And I'm going to pause on her for a second. Last week we had somebody write in about being a felon and having that really big struggle. And Heather offered some really, really good advice on Twitter. If you are the writer who submitted that anonymous question about becoming a felon, please go to PodTherapyGuys' Twitter. We retweeted it. It's in our profile feed. And it was a really good thread of advice. And I really think you should check it out. Want to thank Ian Whitefall, Ice Blue Scoop. Want to thank Jackie and Dustin, a.k.a. Scoopy and the Beast, James Cole, Jessica Vint, a.k.a. Scoopy Jess, Joseph Pengrazio, Carrie Terhark, Kate Keller, Kenneth Soto, Lori Eltzroth, Leon Kassab, Linda Brandmeier, Lindsay Bashara, Lindsay Borders, Manuela Muzakyu, Malaya Mike, Okie Scoop, Peter Van Pelt, Richard Bruins, Robert Paulson, Scoop John B, whose Twitter's on fire, Scoopaholic, Scoopiter Ascending, Scoop Stronat, who I insulted her region of the country, I'm sorry, Stacy Westerlin, who actually lives in a different region of the country where it's freaking hot out in Alaska, and Tracy Replogle, a.k.a. my mom.
We want to especially thank our bosses, the Elite Eight, mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of our fan club, the TheraProducers. Thank you, Smitty Scoop, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie Jr. Ment, Chairman of the Board, Kayla Lansbury, David Data Scoop, Vialon, Judy Schneider, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, Dr. Ben Dawn, and ex-officio board member Ellie O'Dare.
If you'd like to hear this episode uncut and unedited and enjoy our spontaneous side projects, including our book club, you can go to patreon.com/therapy, and thank you all for supporting mental health. That's all the time that we've got for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords, the Ice Cream Social Podcast, and thanks to those of you who contributed to our show today. We really appreciate it. Remember, pod therapy isn't something you should keep all to yourself. Share this episode with someone who needs it by opening the episode subscription in your podcast app and copying and pasting the link provided into your social media. Don't forget, you can find us at facebook.com/podtherapy, on Twitter @PodTherapyGuys, and now at patreon.com/therapy.
If you want to submit a question to the show, ask anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tangeman.
I am President Jefferson Davis.
Thanks, and we'll see you for your appointment next week.